I think I'm finally ready to talk about those 13 missed calls. Thanks for sticking around. I needed time to process everything that went down, and honestly, my laptop doing a surprise 4-hour update was just the universe's way of saying, take a breath, dude. It's funny how technology can sometimes feel like a cosmic intervention, forcing you to pause when all you want is to dive headfirst into the chaos. But yeah, I'm here now, cup of coffee in hand, staring out at the city skyline from my balcony. The world keeps turning, doesn't it? Even when yours feels like it's shattered into a million pieces. So, where do I even start? Maybe I should back up a bit, give you some context on how I got here. My name's Philip, by the way, 32, software engineer, living in a mid-sized apartment in downtown Seattle. Life was pretty routine before all this, work from home most days, weekend hikes with friends, the occasional date that fizzled out. Then Fiona came along. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue last summer. She was this whirlwind of energy, long auburn hair, infectious laugh, stories that made you feel like you were living in a movie. She told me she was a freelance graphic designer, working on projects for big brands. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She had that charisma, the kind that draws you in and makes you overlook the little inconsistencies. Our relationship moved fast. Within months, we were inseparable. She'd crash at my place more often than not, filling the space with her art supplies, her favorite scented candles, lavender and vanilla, always, and endless tales of her adventures. She talked about backpacking through Europe after college, interning for a famous photographer in New York, even a brief engagement to some guy who didn't deserve her. I ate it up. For the first time in years, I felt alive, like I'd found someone who matched my energy. But looking back, there were red flags, subtle ones, like how she'd dodge questions about her family or change the subject when I asked to see her portfolio. I chalked it up to her being private. Stupid, right? Fast forward to her birthday dinner a few weeks ago. That's where the cracks turned into craters. We'd invited a small group, Claire, my sister who lives across town, Jamie, my best friend from college, Noah, a coworker who's basically family, and a couple of Fiona's friends I'd never met. The restaurant was this cozy Italian spot downtown, dim lights, red wine flowing, pasta dishes that smelled like heaven. Fiona was the star of the show, regaling everyone with stories of her latest gig, designing album covers for an indie band. But then one of her friends, let's call her Sarah, laughed and said, "Wait, Fiona, I thought you were still temping at that office downtown." The table went quiet. Fiona's face flushed, and she tried to brush it off as a joke. But Sarah kept going, innocently spilling details. "No, seriously, you told me last week you were answering phones for that law firm." It snowballed from there. Jamie, ever the skeptic, pulled out his phone and did a quick search. Turns out, that famous photographer she'd interned for. A quick Google showed no connection. The engagement ring she'd described? A stock photo she'd posted on social media years ago, claiming it was hers. And the apartment she said she owned? Public records linked it to her cousin. Fiona snapped. She accused everyone of ganging up on her, called me a jealous prick for not defending her, and stormed out in tears. The dinner ended awkwardly, with apologies all around. I went home alone that night, replaying it all in my head. Was everything a lie? How much of us was real? That brings us to Sunday morning. I woke up to sunlight slicing through my blinds like laser beams, piercing my hangover from the emotional wreckage of the night before. My phone was buzzing like it was possessed, vibrating across the nightstand with an urgency that made my heart race. I grabbed it, squinting at the screen through bleary eyes. 13 missed calls. 5 from Claire, 3 from Jamie, 2 from Noah, and 3 numbers I didn't recognize, probably area codes from out of state. For a second, I thought someone had died. My mind flashed to worst-case scenarios, car accidents, hospital rooms, bad news delivered in hushed tones. My stomach dropped that specific way it does when your body knows before your brain does that something's wrong. It's like a freefall, adrenaline kicking in before logic can catch up. I sat up in bed, the sheets tangled around my legs, and hit redial on Claire's number first. She picked up on the first ring, her voice raw and strained, like she hadn't slept a wink. "Philip, thank God." "Listen," she said, words tumbling out in a rush. "You need to be careful. Fiona's not doing okay. She's spiraling, and it's bad." My sister's always been the level-headed one, the protector. Hearing the worry in her tone sent a chill down my spine. She explained everything in fragments, piecing together the timeline as best she could. Turns out, after that disaster of a birthday dinner, where Fiona's lies finally caught up with her like a tidal wave crashing over a sandcastle, she went completely off the rails. She'd shown up drunk at her ex's apartment at 2 a.m., pounding on the door, crying and screaming about how I'd destroyed her life and exposed her secrets to the world. The ex, someone I didn't even know existed until that moment, was a guy named Alex, apparently from her college days. He was terrified, barricading the door while she ranted incoherently about betrayal and revenge. In a panic, he called Jamie for help, knowing Jamie had been at the dinner and might understand the context. Jamie, bless his soul, talked Alex through it over the phone, advising him to call the police if it escalated. Fiona eventually stumbled away, but not before leaving a trail of broken flower pots on his doorstep. But that wasn't even the worst part. While she was unraveling at Alex's, Fiona had spent the night sending messages to everyone we both knew. Some were emotional pleas, begging for sympathy, others were violent threats, laced with profanity and accusations. All of them were unhinged, like the words of someone who'd lost their grip on reality. She told Noah she was going to ruin my reputation by spreading rumors at work. She texted my old coworker from 2 jobs ago, claiming I'd cheated on her with multiple women and even stolen money from her wallet. She posted this long, manic Facebook rant about being betrayed by snakes in the grass and hinted that I'd stolen from her, not just money, but ideas, time, and her very soul. The post was littered with emojis, broken hearts, knives, and flames, like a digital cry for help mixed with rage. Then came the part that made everyone panic. She sent my home address to a guy named Ben, someone from her past I'd never heard of, with a message saying she was going to make me understand what it feels like to lose everything. It was vague but threatening, implying she might send someone after me or worse. Ben, bless him for his decency, didn't take the bait. Instead, he forwarded the message straight to Claire, adding a note, "I don't know what's going on, but this seems serious. Be safe." And that's when the phone storm began, everyone calling me, trying to warn me, their voices overlapping in my voicemail like a chorus of concern. I remember sitting there on the edge of my bed, still in yesterday's rumpled t-shirt, hair sticking up in every direction, brain frozen between disbelief and exhaustion. The room spun a little, the weight of it all pressing down like an invisible force. You'd think I'd be angry or scared, pulse racing with fight-or-flight instincts. But mostly, I just felt drained. Like when your phone's been running on 1% battery for too long, you don't even panic anymore, you just accept the inevitable shutdown. The emotional battery was depleted, and all I could do was stare at the wall, processing the betrayal in slow motion. Claire insisted she and Jamie were coming over right away. "We're not leaving you alone with this," she said firmly. Within an hour, they showed up at my door, arms loaded with takeout coffee from the corner cafe, strong black for me, lattes for them, and a bag of fresh croissants from that little French bakery downtown. The one Fiona used to love, with its flaky pastries that melted in your mouth. Funny how grief makes you crave the very things that hurt, like a twisted form of nostalgia. We sat around my kitchen island, the morning light filtering through the windows, casting long shadows on the granite countertop. The croissants sat mostly untouched at first, steam rising from the coffees as we talked. They filled me in on the details they'd gathered from mutual friends and screenshots flying around group chats. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Fiona had built her own fantasy world out of thin air. Back in college, she told everyone she was working as an assistant for a famous photographer in Manhattan. Turns out, she'd been a receptionist at a small print shop, answering phones and filing paperwork. She'd bragged about an engagement to a wealthy entrepreneur that never existed. The ring photo was from a magazine ad she'd photoshopped herself into. Even the apartment she claimed was hers in the city had actually been her cousin's sublet, borrowed for Instagram posts to maintain the illusion of success. Piece by piece, the illusion came apart like a puzzle being disassembled, revealing the fragile foundation beneath. Claire showed me the messages Fiona had sent her. "You're his sister, you should know what a monster he is. He lied to me first." Jamie pulled up the Facebook post on his phone, scrolling through the comments where friends expressed concern or confusion. "This is textbook projection," Jamie said, his psychology minor from college kicking in. "She's accusing you of everything she's guilty of herself." We talked for what felt like hours, dissecting the relationship, the signs I'd missed. Like how she'd always pay with cash, never a card, probably to avoid traces of her real financial situation. Or the way she'd cancel plans last minute, citing work emergencies that never added up. And while we were talking, my phone kept lighting up with notifications, the screen a constant distraction. Messages from friends poured in. "Dude, are you okay? Fiona's blowing up my inbox. What's going on with Fiona? She just DM'd me saying you ghosted her after stealing her ideas. She's losing it on Instagram, posted a story calling you out." I checked, heart sinking as I saw the barrage. Her feed was a mess of cryptic quotes about betrayal, interspersed with old photos of us looking happy. One caption read, "When the mask slips, the venom shows." Then came a knock at the door, soft but insistent. My heart stuttered, a jolt of adrenaline surging through me. For a moment, I thought, what if it's her? What if she's here to confront me face to face? Jamie, ever the brave one, got up and peeked through the peephole. He sighed in relief, his shoulders relaxing. "It's Noah." Noah burst in, still in his work clothes, a rumpled button-down and khakis, face pale as a ghost. He'd come straight from the office, skipping his lunch break. "Philip, you need to know," he said, dropping into a chair with a heavy thud. "Fiona called the office this morning. She spoke to the boss directly, told him you'd stolen company data, that you were leaking secrets to competitors." The words hung in the air like smoke. I just laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, more like that broken, hysterical sound you make when the absurdity finally outweighs the pain. Stolen data? I'm a mid-level coder, the most sensitive thing I handle is bug fixes for apps. But the accusation stung, a reminder of how far she'd go. We were midway through discussing how to handle it, maybe email HR preemptively, when another knock came. This one wasn't gentle. 3 sharp bangs that echoed through the apartment like gunshots. Everyone froze. Claire's eyes widened, Jamie stood up protectively. I approached the door slowly, peering through the peephole. It was the building manager, Mr. Ramirez, looking nervous in his uniform, shifting from foot to foot. I opened the door a crack. "Mr. Ramirez? Everything okay?" He glanced over his shoulder before speaking in a low voice. "There's a woman downstairs in the lobby, she's demanding to be let up to your apartment. She's screaming your name, causing a scene. Says her name's Fiona. I told her no visitors without approval, but she's not leaving quietly." It was her. My mind raced, images of her wild-eyed, fueled by whatever cocktail of emotions and alcohol she'd consumed. The manager said he'd already warned her, threatened to call the cops if she didn't go. She'd called him a coward and stormed back to the lobby couch, refusing to budge. I thanked him, closed the door, and leaned against it, the wood cool against my back. The silence in my apartment was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of traffic outside. Claire looked like she might cry, her hands trembling as she clutched her coffee cup. Jamie just muttered, "This isn't normal. This is harassment territory." Noah paced, suggesting we document everything for a potential restraining order. I felt this weird mix of sorrow and pity bubbling up inside me. I'd loved Fiona once, deeply, passionately. The kind of love where you believe every story she tells because you want to, because it makes the world feel more magical. We'd had moments, lazy Sundays in bed, watching rain streak the windows, road trips to the coast where she'd sing off-key to the radio, quiet nights cooking dinner together, her laughter filling the kitchen. But sitting there, watching her unravel through second-hand accounts, all I could think was, thank God this happened now, not later. Not after marriage, kids, a shared life built on quicksand. And just when I thought the day couldn't get any worse, she posted an Instagram story that popped up on my feed despite my attempts to mute her. It was a picture of me from years ago, snapped during one of our early dates, me sleeping on the couch, mouth open, drooling slightly, looking utterly ridiculous. Captioned, "Mr. Perfect. The man who ruins lives. Hashtag betrayed, hashtag liar, hashtag karma coming." Likes and comments started rolling in, some supportive of her, others questioning her sanity. I stared at the screen and actually laughed, a genuine chuckle this time. It was pathetic, but also freeing. Because that's when I realized she'd lost control of the narrative, and I didn't have to fix it anymore. I didn't have to be the hero in her story. We tried to salvage the afternoon, ordering pizza and putting on a mindless comedy movie, but the tension lingered. Hours later, as the sun dipped low, casting orange hues across the room, I heard pounding again, furious, relentless. "Philip. I know you're in there. Open up, you coward." Her voice slurred through the door, thick with alcohol and anger. I could smell the faint whiff of whiskey even through the wood, mingling with the pizza boxes. Noah stood up, fists clenched, ready to fight or at least yell back, but I stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. "Don't. It'll make it worse." Instead, I called building security, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. When they arrived, 2 burly guys in uniforms, they warned her once through the door, voices firm and authoritative. There was shouting, scuffling sounds, then quiet as they escorted her out. 10 minutes later, I crept to the window, peering down at the street below. There she was, sitting on the curb outside, head in her hands, crying uncontrollably, phone clutched like a lifeline. Her hair was a tangled mess, mascara streaked down her cheeks like war paint. Then a black SUV pulled up, sleek and expensive looking. Claire, standing beside me, whispered, "That's her dad." I recognized the car from photos. He got out, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and a weary expression. He approached her gently, helping her up, murmuring words I couldn't hear. She resisted at first, flailing weakly, but eventually let him guide her into the passenger seat. The door closed with a soft thud, and just like that, she was gone, taillights fading into the evening traffic. That night, I didn't sleep. The apartment felt too big, too empty, echoes of the day reverberating in my mind. Noah stayed over, crashing on the couch with a spare blanket. We opened a bottle of whiskey I'd been saving for better days, a single malt from Scotland, gifted by a client. "This counts as a special occasion," he said, pouring 2 glasses with a wry smile. We sat on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below, talking about everything and nothing. Work deadlines, sports scores, old college stories. But beneath it all, the weight of Fiona's meltdown lingered, a silent undercurrent. The next few weeks felt like aftershocks in an earthquake, smaller tremors that kept me on edge. Fiona lost her job almost immediately. Apparently, she'd sent some pretty wild emails to her coworkers in the middle of the night, accusing them of sabotage and spilling company secrets in a fit of paranoia. Her boss had no choice but to let her go, citing unprofessional conduct. She moved back in with her parents in the suburbs, a quiet house I'd only visited once, filled with family photos that now seemed ironic, smiling faces hiding deeper issues. She tried to contact me a few times, voicemails swinging wildly between rage and apology. One started with, "You ruined me, you bastard," and ended with, "Please, Philip, I need help. I'm sorry." Another was just sobbing, incoherent words about love and loss. I never answered, letting them go to voicemail, then deleting them after a quick listen. It wasn't out of cruelty, it was self-preservation. She made fake accounts to message me on social media, profiles with generic names and stock photos, but the typos always gave her away. "I'm sorry Philip, let's talk." Block. Delete. Move on. Each time, it felt like closing a chapter, one painful click at a time. The weirdest part came a month later, when the dust had started to settle. I was in Target, wandering the aisles under the harsh fluorescent lights, debating between 2 kinds of laundry detergent, scented or unscented, as if that decision mattered in the grand scheme. The store was crowded with weekend shoppers, carts clanging, kids whining in the distance. I turned the corner into the home goods section, and there she was. Fiona looked hollow, like a shadow of the vibrant woman I'd known. Her hair was dull and unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail, her clothes wrinkled and ill-fitting, a oversized sweater swallowing her frame. She was holding a single candle in one hand, a lavender one, of course, like she'd forgotten what she came for, staring blankly at the shelves. Our eyes met across the aisle. Time seemed to freeze, the bustle of the store fading into white noise. No words exchanged. No dramatic confrontation or tearful apology. Just silence, heavy with unspoken regrets. Her gaze held mine for a beat, eyes rimmed with fatigue, perhaps a flicker of recognition or shame. Then she dropped the candle back onto the shelf with a soft clink and walked away, disappearing around the corner toward the exits. That was the last time I saw her. No closure in the Hollywood sense, just a quiet, awkward end in the mundane setting of a big-box store. 3 months have passed since that chaotic Sunday. Life has settled into a new rhythm, one that feels steadier, more authentic. Claire still checks in sometimes, texting memes or inviting me to family dinners. Fiona's mom sent me an apology letter a few weeks ago, beautiful handwriting on thick stationery, full of heartbreak and explanations about Fiona's struggles with mental health, things I wish I'd known earlier. "She's getting help now," it read. "We're sorry for the pain she caused." I didn't respond, but I kept it in a drawer, a reminder of the humanity behind the hurt. As for me, I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. My apartment feels like mine again. I repainted the walls a soft gray, threw out the old couch where she used to curl up during movie nights, the one stained with memories of perfect evenings that weren't. I've started running in the mornings, the crisp air clearing my head, pounding pavement as therapy. Noah and I still grab coffee every Sunday at that same bakery, croissants and all. We talk about work, his promotion, my new project, life's little wins, and sometimes, when the conversation dips into silence, steam rising from our cups, we both know we're thinking about that day. The missed calls, the drama, the unraveling. But we don't dwell, we nod, sip, and move on. Here's the truth I've come to: I'm not angry anymore. Not even bitter. The rage burned hot and fast, then fizzled into embers. What remains is gratitude, pure and simple. Grateful that I got to see the real Fiona before I built a future around her lies, a house of cards that would have collapsed eventually, taking me with it. Grateful that I learned what manipulation looks like before it became a habit, a pattern I might have repeated with someone else. Grateful that peace, after chaos, feels like oxygen, fresh, life-giving, essential. Sometimes you don't realize you've been holding your breath until the storm ends. And when it does, you breathe differently forever. Deeper, freer, with an appreciation for the calm. As some wise soul once said, some endings aren't tragedies. They're just the truth finally setting you free. And in this case, that truth was my liberation. If there's a lesson here, it's this: trust your gut when the stories don't add up. Surround yourself with people who call you when things go south. And remember, even in the messiest of breakups, there's growth on the other side. I'm proof of that. Thanks for listening. Feels good to get it out. Now, back to life. Maybe I'll finally tackle that laptop update for real this time.